top story this hour. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has delayed the sacking of Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, the reason being the escalating security situation in the country. Well, although Netanyahu publicly fired Gallant, the Israeli Prime Minister did not send the necessary authorized formal letter as tensions with Iran increased. Well, earlier, the IDF shot down an Iranian drone that entered the Israeli airspace from Syria. The development comes after Netanyahu fired Gallant for calling for a halt to the government's judicial overhaul program. Initially, the Israeli Prime Minister tried to get an apology from Gallant or win his agreement to renounce his Knesset seat in exchange for remaining on the job. But neither of the attempts were successful, so Netanyahu best thought to delay the matter. Well, both leaders appeared together at two pre-Passover events. In the past few weeks, Netanyahu has signalled the need for unity to combat the growing call for reservists who are refusing to serve as a protest against the judicial overhaul plan, as thousands in Israel fear the bill will transform Israel from a democracy into a dictatorship. Well, Netanyahu aimed to project Gallant's dismissal as a warning in his government, but the lawmakers and people backed Gallant. Even the United States weighed in on the defense minister's behalf. Well, former Defense Minister Benny Gantz said that the delay is not enough and urged Netanyahu to repeal the decision altogether. Well, it's a complex matter, so we've got Jodie Cohen with us live there from Ra'ana, joining us to give us more details on this. Jodie, fill us in. It's quite hard to comprehend what's going on sometimes. It's very complicated.
Absolutely is, Katie. So Defence Minister Gallant was dismissed by Prime Minister Netanyahu because he called for a pause in the judicial reforms, and he did that because he felt that security was at risk. Now, that led to mass protests and a general strike, including at the airport, which led to Netanyahu pausing the reforms. And now the Prime Minister's office has announced that it's pausing moving Gallant on for security reasons. We also know that Gallant is supported by some coalition partners, such as Shas leader Aryeh Deri, and also US officials are said to be lobbying to keep Gallant on as defense minister. Now, in this first show of unity, as you said, Netanyahu and Gallant appeared together at two pre-Passover parties. Netanyahu called to keep politics out of the army, and Gallant said, this is a quote, "It's especially relevant now when we see attempts to hurt us in new places where we haven't seen attacks in past years." He didn't specify what those places were, but it's interesting he raised that, and it suggested that they believe there are new security threats.
Okay, and I think some of this confusion comes from the fact, Jodie, of has he been fired? Hasn't he been fired? You know, what exactly is going on? And what is this show of unity all about exactly? What's it trying to prove here?
So the dismissal has been paused. As you said, no official letter has been given. And they said that's because of security risks. Now, we know that an IDF intelligence report suggested that Israel's enemies see weakness in the societal differences here, and that apparently prompted Gallant's warning to pause the judicial reforms. And the report specifically pointed to Iran. So we've seen four developments on that front. Number one, in Israel itself, Iran is thought to be behind a bomb that was recently detonated in Megiddo and behind a drone over Israeli airspace this week. And it's also, Iran is thought to be coordinating with Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And just yesterday, we saw shots fired into a town in northern Israel and a stabbing attack today in central Israel. The second development is on the nuclear deal front. So it was reported on Monday that the US is discussing a possible interim deal. Remember, in February, the UN nuclear agency found uranium particles enriched to more than 83%, and 90% is needed for weapons grade. The third area is activities in Syria. We've seen a series of airstrikes attributed to Israel against Iran-backed groups there, including this morning. And lastly, the fourth area is targeting Israelis abroad. Greece recently said that it thwarted a terror attack by two Pakistani nationals, which Israel says was backed by Iran. So a number of threats there, and many in Israel argue that security is the priority rather than judicial reform.
Jodie Cohen, thank you so much indeed for your knowledge on that one. We appreciate it. That's Jodie Cohen there in Israel for us.